Today we are going to have our meeting slightly different. We don't have the children with us in our classes because of the vacation. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility as well. Our lecture, as usual, will be about 40-45 minutes, but if André gets extremely inspired and wants to go a little bit more, by all means, he has the opportunity to do that. But we will also have time for questions and answers at the end, and it will be a little bit more than usual. We usually have about 10 minutes, so we will probably go until 12:15, 12:30 the latest, okay? Let me introduce you to André. I am at his webpage, and it's a very extensive bio that he has here. So if I would read the whole thing, that would be the lecture itself. So I won't, but just, you know, he's a journalist. He works for Globo, the Brazilian network, and he is also a professor. And he is, his areas of interest has to do with environment, ecology, and also suicide. So he's also an author. He has publications in these areas. He has received a number of awards as a journalist. But I think the most important thing is that he's someone who is working hard to become a better human being each day, like each one of us. Someone who is committed to spiritual growth, and I think that that's always our best credentials. So with no further words, I would like to welcome you, André. It's his first lecture in English ever, so I will ask you to embrace him with sympathy and with love, and I will be very close by, so if a word is not there, I will, through telepathy, try to help him out. We practice over the weekend so that we can do this today together.
Thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be here, even an honor. As you know, Susanna asked me to do a hard job, to do my first lecture 100% in English, but as you know, my English is not 100%. So I will try to do my best, and patience is a Christian virtue. So at least you will come back after my lecture. You will come back home better than you came here. So let's go. This subject is very complex, but it's very urgent and important to discuss. How to prevent suicide. Suicide prevention, and my approach, my proposal is to discuss this regarding medical science and spiritism. Okay? This is my book, Viver a Melhor Opção, the Suicide Prevention in Brazil and worldwide. Our first challenge is, you know, we have to understand that taboo is a problem when we discuss something related to suicide. Taboo is something that we avoid to talking because culture, social, or religions causes. But to address the problems in the field of public health, we have to break taboos. And suicide is a taboo. It's difficult to discuss this in Brazil, United States, everywhere, and we have to. The question is it possible to reduce the cases of medical problems without information? I don't think so. We need information, good information, to reduce the number, the statistics of strokes. We have to understand the causes of heart conditions and diseases, diabetes, HIV, you know, every kind of health problems. To reduce the number of cases, to avoid these problems, we need good information. Information can save lives. That's what I'm talking about. Now, in Brazil, for example, we are struggling right now to reduce the population of mosquitoes, especially one which got a very interesting name, Aedes aegypti, which causes Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. In order to achieve and prevent new cases, we need information. Information about the life cycle of the mosquitoes. It's simple. And the other mosquito, the name Anopheles, which causes malaria. So to avoid these problems, to understand how does it work, we need information, okay? Now, try to pay attention to this. Suicide is considered a world public health problem by WHO. WHO is World Health Organization, the most important international organization related to public health, okay? So I will share some numbers about suicide. Worldwide, we have, sorry about the Portuguese word, 800,000 suicide cases a year, at least. It means 2,200 cases a day. So, one new case every 40 seconds. 16 million suicide attempts a year. Now, 80% of suicides are committed by men, and most of the attempts are committed by women. We have to understand that. We have to make more research to understand why does it happen, okay? Among young people, 15 to 29 years of age, suicide is the second leading cause of death. Second leading cause of death among men. The first one is traffic accident. But among women is the very first leading cause of death. And these statistics are underestimated. I don't know in English, probably it's the same word, sub-notifications. Sub-notifications means some car accidents actually are suicides. Some firearms accident are suicides. Some falls are suicide. What about here in this country? Suicide is also a public health problem here. Let's check the numbers. Over 40,000 cases a year. Over 120 Americans die from suicide daily, 4 times more than Brazil. 15 of them are young people between the ages of 15 and 24. And we have to pay attention to that because it's a new phenomenon. Young people in this kind of statistics, okay? More researches, more debate, more information. And look that last year, 2016, had the highest rate of suicide cases in 30 years. This piece of news of the New York Times was published last May. Look that American Indians had the sharpest rise of all racial and ethnic groups, with rates rising by 89% for women and 38% for men. That's the same in Brazil. We have to understand what's going on, what's happened with this native groups, Indians groups in America, in Brazil. Policymakers say efforts to prevent suicide across the country are spotty, while some hospitals and health systems screen for suicidal thinking and operate good treatment programs, many do not. But I suppose here is better than we can see in Brazil, okay? We have to think about healthcare, attention, and love networks. You know, we have to spread our consciousness about this kind of problem. It's not a problem only for public health professionals. We have to pay attention around us. What can we do to prevent suicide? And it's important to understand this. This kind of information is very important for us, probably the most important information from me this morning. More than 90% of suicides are preventable because they are connected to mental disorders. It's a new information, and this information comes from WHO, World Health Organization. We have to understand the implications of this information, because we can understand that most of these cases are treatable. We can avoid suicides with information and treatments. For depression, the most important cause of suicide is there is no cure for depression, but it's treatable. Drugs abuse, personality disorder, schizophrenia, anxiety disorder. Well, we have a family of mental disorders. Those are the most important. And depression is a very popular, how can I say that? It's very common to experience depression, or someone with depression in your family, your circle of friends, partner, staff, work staff. So, and Divaldo Franco usually say it's not an epidemic, it's a pandemic of depression. So we have to understand depression. There is a connection between depression and the suicidal idea. Look that the source is the WHO research. The number, 35% of suicides worldwide are connected to
mood
disorders, especially depression. Okay? So, now we have to separate depression and depressed states are not the same thing. So, depressed states are part of life. Sometimes I'm okay, sometimes I'm not. So, that's okay, life must go on. Depressed states, there is no medication. We have to go ahead. It's not a problem, depressed state. But most of us probably understand that it's a problem. I have to look for a treatment, look for a doctor, because I feel not good right now. I'm not good. I'm not feeling good right now. Pay attention. Depression is not depressed states. Pain and suffering should help us to develop ourselves. Did you watch the movie Inside Out? Do you remember how important this character, the sadness, was in the movie? Because the first part of the movie, she was boring. We hate her. And after a few minutes, we understand how sadness is important for the story and for us. We need to experience sadness in order to develop ourselves. That's the most important message of Inside Out movie. So, pain, nobody likes to suffer. That's okay, of course, but sorrow is a tool for elevation. We need to understand that. We need to separate depressive states of depression. And according to different traditions, including Spiritism and philosophy currents, that's the meaning of pain and suffering. Now, this is Leon Denis, an important thinker and writer, spiritist, the same period of life, the same century of Kardec. He said once, at the foundation, sorrow is only a law of education and equilibrium. I know it's difficult to understand that, but that's the truth. Regarding spirituality, regarding spiritism. Depression treatment. Let's talk about this. What's depression? Depression is like a constant sadness, a persistent sadness. It's very important to seek medical advice, okay? There's no cure, as I told you, but it's possible to treat. So we need medication, including antidepressives. They help us to regulate our biochemical system. They boost us. It's not the solution for the problem, but it's part of the solution. Psychological support. It helps us to understand what's going on, face the challenges of life. Who I am, what about my mom, my father, the beginning of my life, how some influence in my school, bullying, cyberbullying, pressures of life, psychological support help us to see how the past has a huge influence in the choice of our present life. It's important ally for the adventure of self-knowledge. We need this. 2 times in my life, I look for this kind of service, and it's a good experience for me. And in Brazil, we have a prejudice. Who needs psychological support? Mad people, crazy people. It's not true. I don't know in America.
It's the same.
The same? Well, unfortunately, because we need it. When you read Joana de Angelis' books, you understand how important, how useful is psychological support for us. To clean our mind, to understand who we are. Passe. Fluid therapy, passe. Take care of your energetic body. All of us has an electromagnetic field, okay? This electromagnetic field is made of our thoughts and feelings, even the sum of our past lives and experiences. So, the fluid therapy can remove miasmas.
Yeah, toxic vibration.
Toxic vibrations, other impurities around us. And it's important to do it in the Spiritist Center or in your home, reading a good book with good messages, inspired messages, searching for a good vibration, good link between us and our guides. It's important to improve health, looking for this kind of therapies, special in depression treatment. Joana de Angelis, let's understand this part of, how can I say, spiritist interpretation of depression. Depression has its genesis in the spirit, which reincarnates with high doses of guilt in his process of evolution under negative factors that mark his march and not resolve by releasing itself definitively. Well, in English, to explain what does it means, it's difficult, but the point here is guilty. Feeling guilty is not good for us, okay? Never. It makes us vulnerable. Of course, to become a better person, we have to admit our mistakes, of course. But after that, we have to move on without guilty. No guilty at all. Never. So, the spirit of the message is all of us make mistakes, but guilty doesn't work. And changes, open space for vulnerable, and it's not good for us, okay? This guy is not spiritist. Krishnamurti is other philosophy current, but this sentence is very spiritist. It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So it sentence inspired me a lot, because yeah, we are living in a world, we are living inside a culture that make us crazy. We have to pay attention, we have to be careful. We have to find every day the right syntonization, the right syntony, yeah. So, let's see what's happened here. Emile Durkheim, one of the fathers, one of the creators of sociology, he wrote a book in the 19th century about suicide. Yeah. And we have to understand that probably we have social causes of suicide. He wrote that. And today, 120 years after the release of this book, let's talk how social factors are connected to suicide. Sense of isolation and lack of social support. It means all of prejudice of race, faith, sexual orientation, etc. This is the reason of many suicides worldwide. Intolerance leads us to fear or hate a person only because she or he is different from us. Consumerism. We live in a material world. Okay, so we need material things. No problem. Consumption is necessary to live. But consumerism causes a permanent sense of frustration and provokes a high level of destruction of nature. So I know the prevalent culture here, how important it is to consume here, but we have to think about it. Because probably sometimes we are, how can I say, we are transferring expectations of happiness to perishable.
Purchasing things?
Purchasing things. It's a trick. It's a problem. Access to means such as firearms, pesticides, poisonous gases, etc. So, to access to firearms is particularly worrying and affects the armed forces, police forces, security professionals, etc. When the weapons are at hand reach, the risk of suicide is higher. So, in Brazil we have problems, especially in Rio de Janeiro, because the lack of money. The economy is broken. So, the military police in Rio de Janeiro, now we don't have more psychiatrists.
Psychological treatment.
Not psychological, psychiatrists. And it's a huge problem because they need it. They need this kind of support. Well, another social reason is media negative reporting. Journalists are criticized for only showing bad news every day. And I have to say, I'm a journalist. I agree with that. I am discussing in my, my work how important it is to open space to some kind of reports to inspire people. Well, we are completing 10 years in Global News showing a program called Cities and Solutions. I'm trying to do my good job in this way. Cities and solutions. Solutions is a good word. Inspired us. So good journalism should publish or show good, inspiring stories too. Okay? Now, let's talk about the most popular show of Netflix. 3 months ago, probably, not 3 or 4 months ago, the Netflix series showed the problem of suicide among young people, and that's good. That's good. But probably, they didn't respect some limits. Probably. According to the WHO, some information could be a trigger. What's trigger? It means that it could enhance the suicide idea among vulnerable people. Let's see what the American Association of Suicidology says about this. This report is a special report about the Netflix show. Since the release of the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why, there has been a significant uptick in reports from mental health professionals that teen viewers are being negatively impacted, evidenced by increases in emergency department visits and hospitalizations. The other side of the series, okay? It's a good initiative to show how important it is to discuss suicide, to open this debate, but probably we have to respect the knowledge, the medical knowledge. It's all depend of how you say, how do you show this kind of problem on TV. Then the last chapter, when the most important character, the girl, kill herself. I don't know how many people here see this chapter or this series. Nobody, see? Nobody here. Yeah, I don't know.
Very graphic.
Too much violence, you know, too much violence. And some specialists said it's a trigger for vulnerable people. Well, let's talk about. Now, the suicide in the view of Spiritism. It's interesting because I don't know if other religion or spiritualist tradition or philosophy can show information related to suicide like Spiritism. We have a lot of information about it. A lot of information about the reality of suicidal after physical death. What the person feels immediately after his or her passing by suicide. First of all, frustration. The problem continues. Actually, the problem is aggravated. Life goes on. There is no death. So, if I kill myself because of problem and there is no death, the problem continues, but actually we aggravated the situation. More pain. We know that the thought has strength and direction. So our family, friends, colleagues, partnerships will address to us their feelings and sadness, in some cases anger caused by our suicide. And this is not good, of course. Difficulty of leaving behind our physical body. So, all of us stay here for a certain period of time. This period of time is defined by the stock of vital fluid, the fuel of life that guarantees the connection between spirit and body. If you kill yourself, what happens with the vital fluid? It stays connected to the body and the spirit. That's why the suicidal feels his or hers decaying body. There are no words that could express this nightmare. You know, the book Memórias de Suicida, de Ivone Pereira.
Memories of a Suicide. Memories of a Suicide.
Memories of a Suicide. Wrote by Ivone Pereira, explained that with many details, you know? Now, one of the most wonderful medium of history, Chico Xavier, explained that the injury caused by suicide affects the perispirit, the matrix of the body. So, if the suicide affects the speech, for example, when a person shoots himself or herself in the mouth, in the next life, she or he may come back mute. If it hits the vision area, in the next life, he or she may come back blind. If the suicide affects the brain, a shot in the head, for example, in the next life, he or she may come back crazy with serious mental problems. So, it's not the body. We can make injuries in the perispirit, the matrix of the body. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. How important is to remember that, what the Master said to us. So, we believe in God. God would not be fair and good if He gave us problems above our capacity to bear. We are never alone. We are never alone. Now, here in this country, you have a lot of choices, a lot of options. Look for a little help. Look for someone who can hear you, who can understand you. It's important to improve this kind of services, to help, to support this kind of services. This book, Viver a Melhor Opção, all of our rights, we give the rights of the book to CVV, Centro de Valorização da Vida. And they need help.
That's an institution that helps.
Yeah, a voluntary institution in Brazil. Was created in 1962, so the last 55 years they are offering in Brazil, how can I say, escuta amorosa, lovely,
Fraternal counsel.
Not counsel, hearing, loving hearing. It's beautiful work. They don't judge, keep secret the message, and they avoid to show or say something that you have to do this or that. The mission of CVV is to listen, just to listen. And believe me, it's a hair product in the market. Listen to just it. Yeah, so suicide is preventable and depression is treatable. We are never alone. Have faith in life. And now, look that picture. Where is it? San Francisco. Golden Gate. So, why I choose this picture here? Yeah, many suicides are committed there. So, we have to change this. We have to cross the bridge. We have to cross the bridge. We have to accomplish our mission here, to live our lives until the end. That's why we are here. Thank you very much.
Wow.
André, no?